ask God, what do you want me to talk about? Because anytime I'm doing something like this, it's an opportunity to talk to somebody about what God wants them to hear. And he ended up taking me kind of in a different direction than what I first thought about doing. And as I went through it, the verse that he brought me back to is Mark 3:27. And it says, no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man, and then he will plunder his house. Probably the most common manifestation of that in the Bible is going to be Samson. It's the one that we most think of with Samson being, the strong man. If you're reading the kids' versions of the Bible stories, you're like, Samson, man, he's just this really cool guy. He's strong, he's brave, he's, able to take on everything. Kind of as you get older and you really learn the fullness of what Samson is, you're like, you know what, he was not very bright, but who's going to say anything to him? He's the strongest man there is. So as you go through it, he actually, even though everybody associates him with Delilah, he was actually married to another woman first, and she was a woman of the Philistines, and she had kind of previously tricked him into sharing like this riddle. Like he had made a deal with these Philistine people. He said, well, if you could answer my riddle, I'll give you 30 fine outfits. I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit, but he said, I'll give you these 30 fine linens, and you have 7 days to do it. And at the end of it, they didn't know, but they kind of kept bothering his wife until she could find the secret, and she shared it with them. So he kind of got mad. He ran off. He didn't divorce her, but he ran off, went home, mad at her and everything. And because he left, the woman's father gave her to another man to be married, and that actually started a lot of the even bigger problems between Samson and the Philistines, where he sought revenge for them. Some of them, I remember the thing where he tied the foxes' tails together and set fire to burn down their fields so they didn't have food. And they actually, Samson's first wife, they actually killed her and the family because Samson did that. But she's never mentioned by name. She's covered in Judges 14. Like I said, Delilah's one we're a little more familiar with. And you kind of see it in this where they're trying to say, well, what's the secret to the strength that Samson has? And it's kind of like he sort of knows he shouldn't say anything about it. He said, well, okay, if you get these special braided vines, I'm powerless to it. So she gets them, ties him up, and then when the Philistines come, he breaks them and he gets away, and they can't do anything to him. And she starts whining, and she said, well, I can't believe you didn't tell me the truth. He's like, well, you'd have to get a new rope. So next thing you know, she gets the new rope, ties him up. He still breaks it. And she tries again. He's like, well, you have to, if you braid my hair and tie me to this post. And again, she's like, okay, I got him now. Philistines come, he breaks loose, gets away. And you'd think after all these things, Samson would say, maybe she doesn't like me, because you're sitting there saying, okay, everything that you're doing, you're saying, how can we kill you? And I don't support, hey, people run off and, leave marriages. But if somebody's asking, how can I kill you? That's probably okay to leave. I might even not even make somebody go through counseling for something like that. But so she keeps working on him. And then finally he caves and he said, well, I'm a Nazarite. My hair's never been cut. And if my hair's cut, I lose all my strength. And it's kind of like all of a sudden it made sense to her, and she's like, well, this is right. And she waits till he's in the room with her, and he lays his head in her lap and falls asleep. And she just takes it, shaves his hair off. The Philistines come, capture him. And he can't do anything. The power of God left him. And make sure I keep my outline so I don't get way off topic. But it kind of brings me back to the verse that I have that I'm built off of. It says, no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man, and then he will plunder his house. And that's the topic that I actually had for tonight was binding the strong man. Thinking about what kind of things are there that come and bind us. And the first question that I actually had as a focus is what is the secret to our strength as a person? And, you know, the good Sunday school answer is, well, it's Jesus. But obviously, nobody's going to bind Jesus. That's the one thing that can't happen. And even this verse, when in the actual context that's around it, is Jesus had been casting out demons, and what they wanted to do was say, okay, well, he must be essentially Satan. It says Beelzebub, and I think most of the translations look at called it Beelzebub, but he's like, okay, you know, he must be Satan because he's able to command demons out. And the verse he's using, the verses, the things around that he's using, saying, if this person was demon possessed, why would I want demons to leave him? You know, it's part of him proving, you know, who he is. But, you know, the general strength is like, okay, you know, you're not going to bind Jesus. So what is it that can be bound in us? And the thing that really can be bound is our relationship with God, and how it works itself out. Like it can affect us, our closeness to him, our ability to hear him, our willingness to be used by him, and our time to spend alone with him. And that's something, you know, like I said earlier, even all four of these things, I'm kind of going to circle back. It's kind of hard. This is the first of the three questions that I actually had to build off of. So it really ties into a few others. I'll actually build on the second question, which was, when is it that we're in danger of being bound? And you look at like Samson, and when they were coming for him, he wasn't, you know, hey, standing at the doorway, ready to get them. I mean, he was somebody who he took the jawbone of a donkey and went and killed 1,000 people with it, just like it was nothing. So I mean, you know, it wasn't like he was going to be powerless to them. So if he was ready for it, if he was sitting there saying, hey, I think they're going to come after me, like he should have been doing after, you know, three times it was proven that they were going to do that, but for some reason he didn't catch on to it. But he wasn't standing prepared for what was coming. He was laying down in her lap, asleep, in somebody that he, you know, he's like, well, this is somebody that I trust. This is somebody that I believe loves me. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly why he thought that sometimes, but you know, that was his position. So for us, it's like we got to think about, well, what are some of the moments that we lack preparation for something like this? And you know, it's hard because I was sitting there thinking of an example of this very thing. It's like, you know, well, you have situations in life, you say, well, okay, when is something coming for me? I don't know. Where's it coming from? I don't know. What's it going to look like? I don't know. But be ready for it. And, you know, I think about like even our armed forces, they'll go weeks, months, years training for that exact problem, saying, you know, hey, we're going to put you in a country somewhere, and we don't know when they're going to attack you, what direction they're coming from, what they're going to come after you with, but be ready for it. And it's kind of almost an impossible thing to even really prepare for. I mean, they're the most prepared people in the world, but they spend endless time training harder than 99% of us could ever go through just for that very thing. So I mean, it really speaks heavily to the lack of not only the lack, but I mean the importance of being prepared for something which sadly you don't even know what it is you're preparing for. And the third question I have is like, who is it that will be binding us? And it's kind of a lot like the question of when. We don't know. There's not really a set answer. And the thing is, if it was somebody who was obvious, somebody who was coming down the street, they got trouble written all over them. Okay, that's not hard to be prepared for. I mean, if Samson was more alert, saying, well, the Philistines are after me, he could have been prepared for them. I mean, he was plenty ready enough to kill them. It's not really going to be somebody that we're prepared for us to go up against. And it's kind of scary, but I mean, we always talk about, well, hey, Jesus can use anybody. The reality is, so can Satan. Satan could really even use, as harsh of a thing as this, he could have used Mother Teresa. He could have used Billy Graham. He is, like I said, God is the most powerful being in the world. Satan is an extremely close second. You know, he has that much power. So, I mean, it's not always going to be this big, bad-looking guy. Sometimes it's this really innocent-looking, well-intentioned person. It doesn't take a big thing to mess us up. One of the books that I really enjoyed reading, it's been a few years since I read it, but Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. And the theme of the book is that Satan has a nephew that's learning how to be a professional demon, essentially, and how to steer people away from Christianity. And he's telling them, he said, you don't do it by dragging them into bad things. You get them preoccupied with things that are good but not great. Get them thinking about, oh, well, hey, I'm doing pretty nice. Build almost a sense of apathy, because if they get apathetic, they're not doing what they can do. If they get comfortable, they're not doing what they can do. Kind of like what Samson was. He was getting comfortable, so he wasn't doing what he could do to the Philistines. And, we think about that, like I said, who is it that betrayed Satan? Not Satan, Samson. His own wife betrayed him. That was his downfall, in the house with him. I mean, I understand that marriage was a little different during that time, but still the premise of it is the same. Kind of the one person you should have no question whether or not to trust them, and that's who it was that Satan used to be his downfall. And, like I said, it's not going to be who you expect, but it's also not always going to be a person. It's just as easy for it to be a circumstance that you go through. It could be a medical event that you have. You might get terrible news. You might say, hey, I have cancer. I had a stroke. Somebody in my family had a stroke. Somebody in my family is getting dementia, Alzheimer's, and now I have to, maybe quit my job to go take care of them. It's a 24-hour day job taking care of somebody who has that. It could be, like I said, it could be having a rebellious child in your family. It could be having somebody who's, maybe they battled addiction through their life and they're relapsing into it. It can be something simple like that. Or it could be something that's a little more subtle. One of the things I thought of, it could be a pandemic. It could be COVID-19. It's like we have all these masks and stuff to wear. And, even on Sunday morning, we're trying to sing, and you're singing in it, and it's getting hot, it's miserable, your nose is itching. You really just feel like just ripping the thing off. I think even sometimes I have the baby with me. She understands because she's trying to pull it off of me in the morning. So it's kind of it's like, we got these uncomfortable things, and it's kind of annoying, distracting. But in some cases, I have people that I know who said, if I have to wear it, I can't. Just say it absolutely bothers them so much that they say, either I have to wear a mask and go, or don't go. Like I said, you can use a pandemic like that. It could be, okay, well, we can't sit next to each other, and we can't interact with each other like we can. You really, it's one thing about this pandemic is it's really easy to now see how important the interaction of Christian brothers and sisters is, the sense of family that you can have coming together, as a church family, because a lot of times we're busy, we're off at work, taking care of our own houses, trying to, just get through life. Sometimes we need to come together as a church family and just like I said, have like a sense of godly companionship with each other, and just that sense of belonging, sense of family. In many cases, like I said, there's states right now, what we're doing, they would never have it. I mean, there's states that said church, no, you're not opening churches. Bars are okay, churches no. And it's scary, but hey, they've shut churches. Even some of the churches that I've seen, we're doing outdoor services. Like in some of these states, they said, no, we're not doing that either. And it's amazing because, like I said, hey, Satan found a way to shut church doors, close it out, making sure that people can't go there. And it's not something that I say, like trying to lighten it, because we're dealing with a virus that probably for 90% of us, we could have it and barely even or not even know that we have it. But there's also people who have it, and it is devastating. It might kill them. It could give them permanent problems. So it's not something where we're saying, oh, this is a hoax, this is fake. No, it's a very real thing. but it's very easy for Satan to use this very real thing to crush us, to drive a wedge in a relationship with God. And it's kind of scary because you realize, okay, hey, that's pretty useful. I mean, I think a lot of times right now, a lot of people right now are looking at all this stuff and saying, oh, it's political, but I'm like, you know what? It might be a whole lot more than political than you know. It might be, this is a wonderful opportunity for Satan to do something he's always dreamed of doing, keeping us out of church. And it's a scary possibility, but it is something that is a valuable thing here. Something else that kind of strikes a little closer to present day is cancel culture. And, I'm really grateful to live in Cleveland. This is a place where if you're a Christian, it's not odd. It's kind of commonplace. I'm kind of appalled when I see these people come to Cleveland and they're, it's complaining, oh, those people pray. I'm like, all those little letter T's in the air, we're not, fans of the letter T here. I mean, it's kind of like you know where you are when you come here. It's if you see all those things, those are warning signs. If you're that bothered that we pray, like I said, north, south, east, west, you got plenty of places you can go. Probably not here, but we have people who are moving here from all over. I mean, there's people leaving California, New York, Illinois, places that are not near as Christian friendly, and we're not there yet, but we have to bear in mind we could easily fall to a position where this cancel culture will be a real issue for Cleveland, like it is in other places. I mean, it's one of those things where, there's this mob that comes and says, either you agree with us or we're going to ruin every aspect of your life. And it's like you see the thing about it, how have we gone from agreeing to disagree to, okay, well, you shouldn't feel that way, to you better get on the right side of history, to listen, either you do what we tell you to do, or we're going to come after your kids, your spouse, your job, your home, your school, everything is part of your life. We're going to go to them and we're going to destroy you, and we're going to make sure nobody ever hires you. Let's say you're a renter, nobody ever rents you another apartment, because we're going to destroy you that thoroughly because you're a Christian. Yikes! And I even still see like little pieces where all these are trying to come together. Like one of the things I've really picked up on, and it's something I would have missed under other circumstances. Like when I was at UT, I got my degree in advertising and college communications, and one of the things that we did was we actually meshed over with journalism and public relations, things like that. We were kind of, there's classes we shared in common with them. You kind of learn how each of those things worked, and probably even more so like in public relations, you sit there and think how you could take any situation and put a frame around it and change the outcome of how everybody sees it. And knowing how they do that, because you have to at least, like I said, I'm in advertising, but you have to at least take a class in it so you understand what they do. It's really a lot of power. It's almost amazing that they have that in communications instead of in psychology, because they can take little things, they can find little ways to just kind of chip away at a bad perception or to guide your thoughts into what they want you to think. And one of the things I see even happening right now is you turn on the news and they're sitting there saying, okay, well, there's these far radical people who do this. They're isolated, these weird people. They're trying everything they can to make you think if you believe Christian things, you're weird, you're a loner, and you're like this tiny fraction of people. Trying to say, look, you're a small group. The reality is we're not. I mean, it's like if every Christian person rallied together, we're the biggest, most powerful group in the United States. But they don't want you to feel that way. They're going to find little things they can do to sit there and say, oh, you believe that? It's because you're a bad person. You're this far extreme outsider. And they're really trying to shame us until they can make us quiet. And kind of like back to the COVID thing. Close the churches down. Scatter us out. We can't be together anymore, and make us feel isolated. Then just browbeat us, even through TV, internet, media, anything like that. You're weird. You're out there. And like I said, it's another one of those things that's just kind of scary, and you realize Satan's using that right now, and he's using it very well. One of the other situations I have, and it kind of ties even to social media, and like I said, I'm on Facebook right now, but this perfection projection is what I call it, and it's this idea that we're put, well, we got to be perfect people. This is something that even Abraham had trouble with. God came to Abraham saying, hey, I need you to lead my people out of Egypt. Well, I can't do that. I'm not a good speaker. I'm not very smart. I have no power. They won't believe me. Please pick somebody else. He felt like he had to be this perfect person in order to do that. And, it's kind of, where we see a lot of this is like, it's always bothered me, and I've actually brought it up, and usually it doesn't go over very well when I brought it up. But I always said, we got people who will spend thousands of dollars to go on a mission trip halfway across the world, and they could walk for free next door and tell somebody about Jesus. They won't do it. And like I said, there's places that like I said, I can say that really, it doesn't make me popular to say that, but it's saying, well, okay, why will people not do that? But it kind of ties into this idea of saying, well, we're trying to project this thing of perfection, and all of a sudden, we're dealing with people who we're going to see again. Like I said, you go to India, there's a good chance you'll never see those people again in your life. I mean, if you go back there and plan it, maybe, but I mean, you're not going to go to the grocery store and get cut off by somebody and the person from India seeing you. It's like you have this thing where partially I blame it on even society, because there's people who sit there and say, oh, Christians are supposed to be perfect people. They're not supposed to make mistakes. I think I've heard more about how to be a Christian from people who probably have never cracked a Bible in their life ever, or they know 2 words of a verse and that's all they know, but they're going to ride that pony out for all it's worth.
Jesus wept.
Jesus wept, or judge not. And I'm like, there's a lot more to that verse than what you're saying. It's like that's as much God as they know, but they're going to tell us how to be a Christian, saying, well, you're supposed to be perfect. You're not supposed to say anything that rubs me the wrong way, because that makes me mad. And partially it is to blame for them, but at the same time, we've fed into a lot of this ourselves. I mean, it's, like I said, even the idea of social media, there's people who honestly don't struggle with this, because there's some people who overshare everything. There's some people who have no trouble at all making sure that people know their life isn't perfect. But, it's kind of like the idea behind the Facebooks and the Instagrams of the world and all these other things are, I want people to see how perfect my life is, how I have everything together. My children are just these angels. My house is always this clean. My food always looks this good and is this healthy. We never eat at KFC. You get a bucket of chicken. It's kind of like this little idea of, like I said, they want to make sure everybody sees that, hey, everything's all together. And that's something that really, we need to, as Christians, replace this ideology of we're perfect people, and we need to be real people with real struggles, real problems that go on, and it's like, if we can get people to understand that we are the real people with real problems and break down this wall of, hey, we're supposed to be perfect. I mean, it'll help us. Like I said, if we go next door right now, we might run into neighbor Steve, who knows who we used to be before Jesus got a hold of us. Or we might have made some decision in life we shouldn't have made, and we run into that person again. And, if we're going door to door, we might see them say, oh, well, you're the person who did this to me, or you're the person who, using examples, I'm not thinking any people in particular, but saying, hey, my spouse left me for you, or I do have a true story on that one, actually, because there was a church event I went to, and everybody had to stay in the same room, and they happened to put 2 people in the same room, and one of the guys was married to the person who his wife left him for, and I'm in the room with him, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is frosty as all get out right here. So, like I said, I'm not naming names on that one, but that actually has happened before. But you think about stuff like that, like I said, when you're dealing with people that you see all the time, They know you. They know you're not perfect. And there's a degree of unnerving to it, but I mean, we really have to let go of this idea of, hey, we're Christians, we got to be perfect people. No, we're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. That's the reason why we need God. If we were perfect, we don't need Jesus. And it's something, an idea that's something they have to replace. And kind of the last of the ideas I have is a manifestation. There's plenty more, but I mean, I'm thinking of the common ones, and this one is probably one I'm stepping on my foot as hard as anybody in the world right now, is time and the lack thereof. And, kind of using myself as an example, I mean, today's going like every other day does for me, it seems like. Wake up at 6 a.m., just hustling, trying to get kids ready, get breakfast made, get them to school, get to work, go to work, try my best to get home real quick because I got somewhere to be, stuffing food down my throat and driving. And it's like I'll go from 6 a.m. and it's probably 10:30 before I ever sit in anything that's not a seat of a car, and it's just go. It feels like I'm getting everywhere I'm going about 2 seconds ahead of the deadline. And, it's kind of harsh being that busy. And I've, it's like if you have any interpersonal relationship in life, the one thing that can really chip away at it slowly but quietly is not spending time with those people. And, when you sit and think about it, if you're so busy with, I got this errand to run, the house is, if this house catches on fire, the firemen are going to say, I ain't walking through that, stuff like that, that's unfortunately very real. Too real for me sometimes, but, the laundry's a mile high. We got to get dinner made. We got to clean this dinner mess because if we don't, the house is going to smell like that tomorrow morning. That's, just all these things that go on. And there's two ways it can hurt you. It can hurt you because you flat out don't have time to spend alone with God. And it can hurt you because you have so many things on your mind. And like I said, this is horrible. It actually hurts me to even say it. You don't think about God. Your mind is in so many places, and it's like all of a sudden, it's like when something hits you saying you should spend time with God, you're like, past 2 weeks, man, I haven't even sat, if it wasn't for church, like I said, if it wasn't for Sunday morning, man, sometimes you're like, that's all I got. It's got to last me because I really don't have time alone with God. And you'll look and say, what do I get rid of in my life? I don't know. And I think it's something that's even kind of by my own observation. I think it's kind of impacting a lot of people kind of my age group because the price of everything, literally anything, has just shot sky high, and what we get paid is not. And it's like I look at houses right now. We bought our house in 2012. We put in a roof on it, maybe some real minor stuff. I could sell it for twice as much right now. And it's been 8.5 years roughly, I think, since we got it. It's like, done nothing. The house cost has just shot that high. One thing that we kind of were talking about at home, she's like, we're going to try to pay off the SUV you have and work on getting me a better truck. I actually bought like an old truck with an incredible deal on it. And it's weird, it's the oldest vehicle I have. It's actually the one I like driving the best though. It's nice to have, but I realize this is old, getting up there in miles a little bit, It's like, you have to think about replacing them. And if you ever look and see what they want for a new truck right now, I was like, I could probably get 2 double-wide trailers and take it and trade and still have to pay money to get a truck right now. So, it's like, this is, even the guy I work with, he's wanting to get a truck. His driving one's got 400,000 miles on it, I think. And he's sitting there looking, he's like, I can't find one 3 years old for under $30,000. I remember, like, my dad had to buy his own truck for a job back in the late 90s or something. $30,000 would have bought him just a perfect truck. And, kind of, I guess back to the original point, the cost of everything is just going up, but the pay isn't. And what I think that's really doing to a lot of people is, for most people, if you're not a doctor, lawyer, engineer, a professional athlete, I guess. You know, like I said, some of those people have made a little better than others, but if you work a normal job, one income might not make it. And, you know, even for like me and Laura, both of us work because it would be so tight trying to make it off of one income right now that, you know, it's like, okay, well, we could do it, but we have to do without this, probably don't have this house, you know, all these things you have to do without. And it's like we think about most people that we know, that's reality for them. Most people that are my age, the husband works, the wife works. And I'm sitting thinking, when that's happening, you're not getting to the housework. You're not, gosh, about every day I said to Laura, it's like, you know, I'll run into somebody saying, hey, we should go fishing sometime. I'm like, I feel terrible because I don't spend enough time with my own kids. You know, I can't say, hey, let's do it, because I'm like, well, you know, I'm not doing this with my kids. I'm not teaching them to throw a football or anything. I mean, it's just from wake up to go to sleep, we're just so full of trying to get everything. It's like we're splitting another full-time job after we get done working. And, you know, it's extremely easy to be busy when that happens. And just, you know, like I see somebody's like, I spent all day thinking about God. I'm like, good for you. I need to be on your income plan. I need to make the investments you made, because, man, this is, you know, like I said, I'd like to have that freedom, because, you know, all the things I think about. But, you know, it's a harsh reality for me. I'm going to try to keep my stuff, so I was saying on, like I said, on topic, but, you know, it's something that binds us. It's busyness. And like I said, that's not a person. It's flat out not having time for it. It brings us back to Mark 3:27. You know, it says, make sure I get, because I don't want to just like get a word off, but it says, no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man, and then he will plunder his house. And, you know, and kind of in the closing, I'm saying, you take, you know, a self-inventory of what things are in your life. What are things that you're putting your trust in? And I say who, it could be a who or a what. What are you laying your head down and lap and don't even realize this is really binding me down? This is going to be the thing that leads me away from God. This is what's drowning out God's voice in my life. You know, it says that if you have faith in any person or anything that is not God, eventually you're going to be disappointed. I mean, it's in spouses. Like I said, I mean, I'm married. Look, she'll let me down sometimes. The greatest person I've ever met, they'll still let me down. My best friend will let me down sometimes. God was the only thing that will not let you down. I mean, when you're putting your faith in anything, in this quality job, this surefire income, this, you know, anything. And it stands, you know, like I said, even back to the military example, it's like, be prepared. For what? I don't know. Well, when's it coming? I don't know. Well, you know, what's it going to look like when it gets here? I don't know, but be prepared for it. And that's kind of the closing I have, where we're saying, you know, as hard as it is to be prepared, mentally be prepared. Know that Satan is using little innocent things to stop us. He's using a virus that keeps us apart. You know, if you're somebody who's saying, you know, man, I need nothing more right now than to grab a brother and sister in Christ and go to the altar and pray, but the church is closed down. You know, something like that. If you're sitting there saying, I need accountability partners, you know, say, hey, I have things in my life, and I need people who will go to battle with me, maybe who've been through this problem before, but we can't come together right now because church closed. You know, there's that. They're battling loneliness. There's people who, I mean, it's really, somebody said at the start of this, I can't quote a person because I don't know exactly which person. They said, as many people as COVID's going to kill from getting sick with it, it's going to kill a lot more from depression, from suicide. And, you know, I've seen several of those, like I said, younger, I mean, really across all ages. There's people who, honestly, they need the feeling of a church family. And like I said, Satan's able to close doors right now. He's able to stop people from that. So I guess, well, like I said, what I urge people to say, as much as we can, let's be prepared. Let's know what we're up against. Hopefully this season that we're in right now will be over soon. We're going to be back to shaking hands. I got a table here behind me, food all the way across the table. We're from the South. You got to have food. Like I said, good stuff. Little silent cooking competitions where everybody's making something like, all right, I'm going to get my empties first. But little things like that. I mean, getting back to that sense of family. It's something I really pray for that we get to soon. That we're. It's like I'll hear somebody say, "Oh, well, at least through 2022." Oh, no. It's like we're all going to have a mask burning, but we're going to wear a mask to go there. So we're going to do something here. But that's what I had on. That's what God had laid on my heart. Like I said, thank you. Thank you all for being here. I don't know what number is on Facebook. Thank you all for joining us. I'll be on the internet forever. So those of you who haven't seen this yet or are seeing this just now, hi to you. Thank you too. I will go ahead and close. Like I said, we'll go over the prayer list, but I'm going to go ahead and close, cut off everybody that's in here, and not cut off everybody that's on Facebook land, and we'll be good. So let me see here. Here's the worst part. You get to